Hi everyone, I'm Erin. I wanted to just address in this brief video awesomeness and appreciation. Sometimes as healthcare interpreters, we have a front row seat to some really difficult and challenging and kind of the worst of the worst in humanity, right? And some of their struggles and not great moments. But we also have a front row seat to some of the awesome, wonderful things that people do and how they engage with humanity. So I just wanted to share a couple of stories and a shout out to the awesomeness of nurses on the front lines. This happened many, many years ago, earlier on in my career. I'm at the emergency room and the patient, I don't know what the patient was there for, we'll just say stomach problems or stomach pain or something related to the stomach, okay? So the patient was being attended to and it was accompanied by another person. And the other person just kind of, sat in the room and accompanied the patient, etc. So we get through the whole course of this emergency room encounter, attended to the patient's need, got a diagnosis, got a treatment plan, and we're ready to discharge the patient. And the nurse turns to the patient's companion and says to him, "Are you feeling okay? Your skin looks a little bit red, looks rather irritated. I'm kind of concerned about you." Mind you, this person is not the patient at all. And so the patient told the nurse that he had his car break down the day before on the highway. And mind you, this is the dead of winter in Wisconsin, January. It's freezing cold temperatures to the point where people who are out in the elements for 10, 15 minutes or longer start having the risk of frostbite. And so sure enough, he had some of that exposure to the elements. Not being local to Wisconsin, wasn't prepared for the winter gear, the hat, the gloves, the scarf, the heavy winter coat. All he had was this flimsy jacket that he had with him and pockets to put his hands in. So while he was dealing with the breakdown on the highway the day before, he had experienced some frostbite. And it was wonderful to see the nurse pick up on that and not just ignore the fact that somebody here in this emergency room, even though he wasn't the one seeking the medical attention, needed some type of medical support. Did he have a jacket? Did he have a coat? Did he have gloves? And he didn't have what he needed. So she did what she could to gather the resources together. Here's a hospital blanket, take it with you, make sure you're wrapped up. Gave him all the guidance on getting gloves and making sure how to protect himself during this terribly bitter winter Wisconsin. And I thought to myself, this is awesome. This is what it's like to be human to human in a healthcare setting, interpreting for a nurse who's caring for somebody who has a health need, even though they weren't a registered patient, and going above and beyond and serving the needs of others. So shout out to that nurse. I have other examples as well of nurses in emergency rooms and other settings. I'll just share one other emergency room situation. The patient needed to have an emergency operation and it was going to be lengthy and complex. And of course these things are happening in the middle of the night. So while the nurse was prepping the patient to transition to the surgical area, leaving the care of the emergency room then, the nurse gathered up some pillows and handed one to each one of the family members who was there with the patient, and even to me, the interpreter, because she knew you guys are going to be here for a long haul. We're going to take the best care we can of your beloved, of your family member, but take some pillows and get some rest. And she didn't say, make sure you return these pillows later, or anything of that nature, but that kind gesture, that care and concern to do what she could to serve the needs of the family of that patient who was going through a very significant medical situation and facing a very challenging surgery was uplifting to see in that moment. So a little bit of light in the darkness. So think about in your own professional practice as an interpreter, what are the moments when you're seeing people go above and beyond, when they are just knocking it out of the park as far as their skills go and within their professional framework or otherwise, and take moments to acknowledge those people for the great work that they do. Sometimes as interpreters, we feel like we're undervalued, that we're underappreciated, that people don't think that our work is complex or challenging, and maybe that sometimes we get in the way. But if we can start showing people and showing appreciation towards other professionals that we encounter with, then we can also perhaps inspire them to acknowledge and see the awesomeness of the work that we also do and bring to the encounters. So just a couple of foods for thought, both on acknowledging awesomeness and also being appreciative for the work that others do. So with that in mind, share some of your stories. What are some of the neat moments that you have experienced and had a front row opportunity to observe as an interpreter in a healthcare encounter, whether you're on the ground on site or perhaps over phone or by video? If you like this video, be sure to like it, subscribe, share, comment. Let's continue the conversation. Have a great day. Thanks, everybody.